in Big Orange. The pitch. Swing and a miss. That's the ball game. The national champion is clad in Big Orange.
At Summit and Destiny have met 7 times before. Tonight is number 8.
Tennessee Volunteers have wrapped up an SEC outright regular season title. Connect with
the SEC runs through Rocky Top. Tennessee wins the SEC regular season crown for the 2nd consecutive season.
the 1-0. Indiana, right center field. Rock's on the move. Rock get there. Tennessee walks it off. It's a mismatch. Deep range. Come on now. And don't connect. Robbie Draghi this time. Indeed. New hand there. Down the middle. Got it. On the fly. It's high and again. And he's going to take it. Touchdown, Tennessee.
Hey, how much fun is this?
Man, Rocky Top. This is college football and it's absolute bad.
We are back. It's the Vol Fanatics Show live right here on a Sunday afternoon. I'm your boy Skylar and Michael. How are we doing this afternoon?
Man, I'm doing fantastic. It has been a great week. Did drop a game to Kentucky earlier this week. We'll talk all about that. But other than that, man, it's been a fantastic week on the court, on the field, in life in general, man.
That's right.
It's just been a fantastic week. How about you? How you doing, man?
Man, I honestly I can't complain. Personally and also as a fan, it's been a good week. Obviously, dropping to Kentucky, we'll talk about that. That kind of sucks going over on Kentucky this year, but clearly the statement gets overused a lot. But I do feel like we are their Super Bowl in every sport because they just cannot show out to play anybody else other than Tennessee. It's crazy, but we'll talk all about that. Tennessee Football 247 is already in the chat. Says, I said it's great to be a Tennessee Vol. All of these Kentucky fans say they can beat the real UT twice this year, but they lost to the fake UT. Hey, fake UT. We actually just call it TU. They hate that way worse. So just do that. Matt says, go Vols, baby. We appreciate you guys being tuned in. And Misty on the Facebook. Hey, Facebook is back. And she says, hey, how are we doing? We appreciate you guys being tuned in this afternoon. We got a loaded show, 3 segments full. Michael, do you kind of want to give us the rundown of the segments, or do you want to go ahead and do the presenting sponsor first?
Let's do the presenting sponsor first, and I'll let you take over with that right there.
Yeah, right on. Well, then, without further ado, it is Chris Smith Insurance. As a homeowner, Chris Smith was once let down by an insurance company. So he started his own agency, where instead of feeling like a big company is fighting against you, you'll know that your agent is fighting for you. All insurance is not equal. Trust the Chris Smith Insurance today. Give him a call at 865-272-3387 right here in Oak Ridge. Again, Chris Smith isn't the agent that's just going to find you the cheapest rates. He's also going to find you the best coverage. And if you do have to file that claim, he's going to be there at your doorstep to help you through every step of the way. Thank you, Chris, for your continued support. And I think you might have heard something, but we have some massive news for the show. Michael, I'm gonna let you take it over, man. What's some of the news that we got going on right now?
So everyone, wife and I have been keeping a little bit of a secret for a while, but I'd like to introduce everyone.
Drum roll, please. This
is Mr. Anderson James Reed Allen. Obviously, he's not too happy right now. he's ready to take him a little nap. But
look at them football feet. Oh, me.
Yeah, just want to introduce everybody to him, the newest member of the Vol Fanatics Show. Starting his podcast debut early on in life.
That's right. He's got a lot to say right now. I mean, I cannot wait to get him on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. But just wanted to introduce everybody to him. And for those that already knew, we appreciate all of the support that has been given to us, all the people reaching out. We really appreciate all that. And thank you guys for the comments there. I'm going to pass him back off to Mom now.
Don't fumble. Don't fumble the bat.
Exactly. That would be really bad.
And son, why do you have a flat spot on your head? Well, what happened was no, I'm joking,
Yeah,
man.
when
Congratulations.
that brain damage comes in later in life, it's because I fumbled. So.
I'm just so glad it doesn't look like you. So, with all due respect.
You know that he gets his good looks from me. But
Is that what it is?
that's exactly right.
No, man.
No, appreciate you letting me show him off on the podcast today, and appreciate the support that you've given me through this time. You've known for what, about 5-6 months now?
I'm known for a bit. Yeah, absolutely. I've done a great job keeping it a secret. And yeah. So funny story though, real quick. Is it true that baby was birthed and y'all had no idea what y'all were calling it?
We had no idea. Not only did we not know what we were calling it, we had no idea what the gender was. We went through the entire thing, did not find out the gender. Nobody knew until he came out. So
that's awesome.
We had some names picked out, but did not settle on one until we found out first what the gender was, and then after we kind of looked at them, we were like, yeah, we're going to go with that one. So.
No, right on. Yeah, I didn't even tell my mom. Apparently, no, he looks exactly like Michael, but I was just giving him some mess. He knows it. I even told him on Snapchat in one of our groups. I'm like, dang, that baby looks just like you, which is unfortunate. I'm joking.
He had no chance.
He had no chance. Kind of looked like no shot. It looked like me.
You got something you need to tell me, Skylar. So
no, actually, no. We're gonna move along. All right, so we got 3 awesome segments today, man. We're gonna be talking basketball, men's and women's. Obviously, first 2 segments. Third segment, we're going to continue our series of we're circling back on our predictions earlier in the football season to see how we did so far, and through 9 teams, we are deadlocked right now as far as how bad we were wrong on all of these.
Yeah,
but we got that going on. We're also going to touch on just a tad. I mean, just like 5 minutes on the baseball team. They swept Hofstra in the first weekend, an opening weekend of baseball season, and then also Lady Vols softball. Continuing to roll after dropping that first game. They have went pretty much nonstop dubs after that. So that's pretty cool to see. And the chat box is rolling. We appreciate you guys being here. And without further ado, Michael, send us on with the first segment sponsor, and let's get the show on the road, man.
Yes, our first segment sponsor, you already know, it is Optimal Asbestos Services. Optimal Asbestos Services offers detailed asbestos inspections and air quality assessments. Whether you're looking to secure your home or workplace, you can trust Optimal Asbestos Services to deliver thorough and reliable solutions. You can contact Jeff Mole at 865-223-3297 for your consultation today, or go on the web at optimalasbestosservices.com. And as I mentioned last week, for our other sponsors, if you do have an updated ad read that you want for us to read out there, just shoot us an email with that ad read, just like Jeff did, and we will get that updated for you. But without further ado, let's talk some men's basketball.
That's right.
First. As we mentioned, the day that Mr. Anderson got here, which was Tuesday, the day of Kentucky game, the very first thing he saw on TV was Tennessee, Kentucky, and it's unfortunate that this was the game that he saw.
Right.
But this was a game that, once again, it's not like Tennessee necessarily played bad. They just couldn't get the ball to fall into the hoop, especially from deep. I mean, 3 of 18 from the 3-point line. You lose by 11, and the score was a lot closer than what this score right here appears. I mean, Tennessee had a 2 or 3 point lead with about 3.5 minutes left. Am I right in that? Or,
yeah,
it was at least tied.
Yeah, they came back and took the lead. I think it was lead by 3. And really the momentum, it was almost like okay, now we're back. Kentucky was already hurt. I think another player got hurt in this game while they're so Kentucky was down and somehow still putting on a really good fight. I mean, it's just one of those things where I guess at some point we got to start criticizing the defense just a little bit. I mean, this is the second game in a row against Kentucky where they're shooting 50% from the field. And unfortunately, when a team is shooting that hot, especially from 3, going 12 of 24 yet again from the arc, I think that was the exact same stat line from game 1, by the way. Is 12 from 24 from 3. And just unfortunately, in a game where you also didn't shoot as well, again, shooting 42.5% from the field and a whopping 3 of 18 from 3. Now, I do credit Tennessee for not jacking up 40 of them again. But the end of the day, Kentucky, for some reason, I don't know if it's a mental thing with Tennessee, because it kind of seems like it is at this point, but for some reason, we just kind of seem to have our worst shooting nights against Kentucky. And that's something that we almost overcame, but at the end of the day, couldn't get it done.
Yeah, I mean, credit to Igor Milicic in this game, though. I think he had all 3 of Tennessee's 3-pointers, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, 3 or 4, and I mean, he was the only one that showed up ready to shoot the ball, apparently. So,
yeah, him and Zakai. Well, Zakai was good from the field. He only took 2 3-pointers. He was 0 of 2 there, but he was
like
7 of 11 from the field, 3 of 4 from the free throw line. But I mean, Chaz Lanier, another night where he goes 3 of 13, 0 of 7 from the field. You got Jordan Gainey, 4 of 12, 0 of 4 from 3. Dubar took 1 3, but other than those 4, other than those guys right there, nobody shot a 3-pointer in this game, and Milicic with the only 3 made threes. Another game that we've talked about this year, you need to get more from your post players as well. I mean, you had Akpara, only 8 points, only took 4 shots and made 2 of them. He was 4 of 4 from the foul line, though. I give him credit there.
Yep.
But then Cade Phillips only took 2 shots. He was 1 of 2, 3 of 4 from the foul line. And I do love to see that from those 2 guys who have struggled from the foul line at times this year. But, I mean, Matt Stone, he's saying it all right there. I mean, Kentucky has had our number this year, and anytime that you have a team that shoots 50% from the field, and especially 50% from 3, you're not going to win that game. You've got to do everything else right if you're going to win that game, and Tennessee was not able to do that twice this season.
Yeah, it's frustrating. I do feel like Zakai and Igor, once again, being your top 2 scorers in the team. Once again, what did I say last week? And this is kind of an underrated take, but I kind of mentioned, I was like, the team goes, honestly, not even as Chaz Lanier goes. It kind of goes as good as Jordan Gainey goes.
Yeah.
And he got 8 points, sure. But like, he was 0 for 4 from the 3-point line, and he was 4 of 12 from the field in 32 minutes of play. He's basically your starter. I mean, he's your 6th man. You've got to have a better production out of Jordan Gainey, and I hate to put that on his shoulders, but he signed up for that. He's okay with that. And this team is just, it clicks so much better when Jordan Gainey's not even hitting every shot, but if he's hitting half of his shots. And again, in this outing, he wasn't. And on top of that, I think he actually committed a couple of turnovers, over dribbling and whatnot. It did cost us. Kentucky, really, man, I don't feel like they really overpowered us. I mean, we out rebounded them, but it's one of those things where I was kind of looking at like offensive rebounds, and we kind of dominated that. But then again, you look at, we missed a lot more shots than they did, so we had more opportunity to get those rebounds. So no, it's a frustrating night for sure. But at the end of the day, it's not your season. It's a top 15 opponent, right? We can at least say that. Aside from Vanderbilt loss that we have, I mean, every single loss we've had has been in the top 15. So you can kind of hang your shoulders on that. No moral victories for sure. No excuses. But this team knows that this isn't the end of the year. They still can fight for a very high 2. And even honestly, with Alabama dropping to Auburn and the way they did it at home and the rest of their schedule that they have, I mean, Tennessee has a real chance at the number 1 seed here. They just got to finish strong the rest of the year, in my opinion.
Yeah, you're still very much in play for a number 1 seed. I mean, the way it sits right now, the number 1 seeds are going to go to 3 SEC teams and an ACC team. That ACC team being Duke. And it's going to be 3 of Auburn, Alabama, Tennessee, and Florida. The way it sits right now are going to be 1 seeds. And that's just crazy to think of, that one conference could have 3 number 1 seeds and at least 1 number 2. Because whoever does not get a number 1 seed there will be a number 2 going into the NCAA tournament.
That's right.
But I listened to a couple of shows up in Knoxville this week, and they all said it perfectly, that guard play is what's gonna be the detriment for Tennessee. It's either going to be the success or the detriment. You look at the guards here: Zeigler, Lanier, Gainey, and I'll add in Milicic just because he plays more of like a guard wing type thing than a post.
Yep.
You have Milicic taking 9 shots, Zakai taking 11, Lanier taking 13, and Gainey taking 12. That's an insane amount of shots from the guards. When you look at your post players, you got Akpara taking 4, Phillips taking 2, Dubar taking 2. I know he's kind of that wing type player too, but he can get down playing the post. He's taking 2. And then the only other person is Jemai Meshack, and this number has to go up. He took 1 shot and he missed it in the game.
Yep.
With the way that defenses play Jemai Meshack, he has got to be more aggressive and he's got to take shots. And he's got a sweet enough stroke. He can make those shots with confidence.
And that's kind of what I'm getting at with Jemai Meshack is dude's actually kind of a shooter. He just doesn't do it. And I don't understand why. I mean, you see him in warmups. If you go to the game, like he's very smooth with it. In fact, has on video beaten Chaz Lanier and Jordan Gainey in a game of horse or whatnot, shooting straight threes just all across the board, and he outright beat them. So I mean, I don't understand why he doesn't believe in himself to take those shots. I don't know if he just feels like he's only there for defense because he is a very good defensive player. But I mean, even in the next game we're going to talk about, he shot a 3 and boom, like swished it. It's just one of those things where I wish we could unlock that, but I've always said that he's kind of like the Triple J of this team. He's got it in him, but he just doesn't really do it all that often. And it would be really nice just to kind of add that element to his game because he is so valuable to have him out there defensively, but it is kind of a liability to have him out there offensively just because he doesn't, I don't know the way the defense is playing. I mean, you kind of mentioned this, they will literally, they're able to pack the inside of the paint and not allow anybody else to really drive in because they don't respect Jemai Meshack to pull up and, hit that shooter. So, that's a little frustrating to me, but I do feel like it's there.
Yeah, and, some people might call this a hot take, but I think that this is absolutely not a hot take. This team is going to go as far as Jemai Meshack can help take them. And what I mean by that is playing his role as a defender, but also scoring whenever he has the opportunities. This team is going to go as far as he is willing to kind of help them get there. Because that's just one more element that they have to defend at that point whenever he's able to score the basketball. So.
No, 100%. So any final thoughts from Tennessee versus Kentucky? I believe this was in Rupp, and the Vols did come up short here.
The only other thing I have is if Tennessee plays this team again, they will beat them. Whether it's the SEC tournament or whether it's the NCAA
I'm not so sure.
tournament.
I'm not so sure this team is mentally tough enough to overcome. I don't know how to explain it because it's so inconsistent. This team is, but I just don't know once they've lost to this team, right, and the rivalry that's there. I just don't know if this team is physically, like mentally tough enough to lay it to Kentucky. And I feel like Kentucky, vice versa, something about when they play Tennessee that, I mean, the best of their shooting abilities is shown on the court. I don't know. I'll tell you this, going into the tournament, I don't want to play Kentucky. I'd rather play Alabama. I'd rather play Auburn again, honestly, than to play Kentucky again. That's going to get clipped up. That's going to get clipped up, and I don't even care.
I can agree with that, yeah.
So,
but now let's move on to a game that we're a lot happier to talk about.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's the fact that we still showed little bro that this is our state. It has been and always will be. As Tennessee comes from 16 down to beat Vanderbilt 81-76. A tale of two halves, man, for both teams.
Really, for Zakai Zeigler.
Yes, that too. But yeah, Tennessee in the first half just looked abysmal, man. I mean, they scored 31 points, and really, the game should have been more lopsided than it was after that first half. I mean, Vanderbilt took a 44-31 halftime lead, and I was sitting there like, man, what's going on? I mean, what can we do at this point? Do we have a chance to come back? The answer was yes, as Zakai Zeigler came out and scored 22 points. All 22 of his points came in the second half, en route to a 50-point second half for Tennessee, and they get the 5-point victory.
Yeah, this game was very frustrating for the sense of they had a number 22. I think his last name's Carey. Came off the bench, and the dude was just bullying us on the boards. He had 7 total rebounds, but it felt like he had 30. Vanderbilt's second chance opportunities that they had in the first half killed us. It was it was embarrassing to watch us get out rebounded the way we were getting out rebounded. Vanderbilt was more physical. They were running around. They looked ready to play where we kind of didn't. And I do fully believe that the difference in that first half, not only was the rebounding that was just atrocious, which we did pick it up in the second half, but Zakai 0 points in the first half. Now, I'm not saying he's our shooter and that is but like he is our shot creator. And when he has 0 points, they're not going to respect him to score. And then that's going to make his assist even harder to get. So that was the big difference. I'm so glad they were able to make those halftime adjustments and get it corrected. No, I got to tip my cap to Vanderbilt. I'm not proud of this game. Like, I love the fact that we came out in the second half and won. But, like, this was a game I was watching in the first half, and my family can attest to this. We were at the baseball game, and I had it on my phone just watching it. I was not happy. Like, the first half was bad. Like, I remember, like, I was going to be that guy that texts you in the middle of the game, like, or, how are we feeling? Like, just to kind of get your input on it. But I was like, you know what? He's probably fuming harder than I am, so I'm just going to let it go. But the fact that we were able to come back in the way that we were pretty much immediately starting the second half, that was good to see. It's great to see.
Yeah, I mean, I got to tip my cap to 2 guys for Vanderbilt. You already mentioned one, Jalen Carey. I absolutely hated him yesterday, man, and my wife did too. But it's because how arrogant he was. But he, like you said, he was just bullying Tennessee out there, getting into their heads. And at one point, you saw Zakai Zeigler just throw the ball at him after he said something, and both of them picked up technicals off that. I mean, he was, like you said, just bullying him. Yeah. And then the other guy, man, Jason Edwards.
He's a dog.
Dude was unbelievable. 8 of 16 from the field, 6 of 10 from the 3-point line. And I know at least 3 of those, it was just, I'm just going to turn and fire. One of them, I don't even think he looked at the rim. That corner 3.
That was another one that was so frustrating. I'm sorry to cut you off, but like at the end of the game, you're playing as good a defense as you had the entire day. They're getting down on the shot clock with like 3 seconds left to go. They're throwing up a prayer 3 and just freaking sinking it, dude.
I mean, doesn't even hit the rim.
No, like just dripped. I was just like, man, what are we doing? Like, how is Vanderbilt doing this? And it was scaring me because I just thought maybe that was a sign that just Vanderbilt had our number, kind of like Kentucky did. But the boys weren't going to let that happen, as they did close the game the right way. They scared me on the free throws a couple times, but overall, dude, our free throws is terrible. I'm just going to be honest. I'm going to be blunt about it. 63% again from free throws is terrible. Like, we should never be below 80% of free throws. And that's just my humble opinion. But, and maybe that's a credit to Vanderbilt for fouling the right guys at the end of the game, but I don't even think that's it. I just think we're terrible at free throws. What's your thought on that? I know you have a favorite saying, acronym that you say, but what are your thoughts? I mean, because that could be exactly what sends us home in the first 2 rounds of the tournament, is not hitting your free throw. It
could be, but now that I'm looking at the stats itself, I'm just like, nobody really shot bad other than Felix Okpara went 0 for 2. But just going down the line, you got Okpara 0 for 2 from the line. Igor was 3 of 4, so I mean he missed 1. Zakai 5 of 6, missed 1. Chaz Lanier 1 of 2. Jemai Meshack 1 of 2. Cade Phillips 1 of 2. Jordan Gainey 3 of 4. So everybody missed 1. So really, other than Okpara not hitting anything, it's not that bad when you look at it. But once you total it all up, those 8 misses right there, yeah, they can come back to bite you. And I think that it's a possibility it will somewhere down the road. I just hope that it's not in that Sweet 16 game or even around the 32 game that we've seen Tennessee drop at times, where you get one of those scrappy teams that
foul you out.
They just won't go away. If you don't knock those free throws down, you could be going home early.
I was fuming when Chaz Lanier missed a free throw against Vanderbilt. Considering
what happened last time.
Yeah. It was in his best interest not to miss a free throw. And he did. Again, it didn't hurt us in the end. But when he only gets 2 shots at the stripe, and especially considering how the first game ended, I was a little upset that we missed a free throw there, Chaz. But, overall, still had a really good game, 21 points. Zakai Zeigler, all 22 points coming in the second half, I believe. Just an absolute dog. I don't even know how he has a block. I didn't see that. I was kind of in and out of the ball game, but I mean, dude's 5'6". No, I'm joking. He's like 5'9". But
he looked 5'6" whenever you compare him to everybody else on the floor.
I mean, seriously. So I mean, it's kind of insane that he got a block. I do like the fact that our team defense obviously is our strength, but I do feel like we've been lacking lately, and I don't know if that's necessarily our defense or we're just getting the best out of these teams. I mean, it feels like every team we're facing is shooting 50% or better from the field. I don't know what we need to do to fix that, but I do feel like adjustments need to be made because I do feel like the talent-wise, I do feel like we out-talent a lot of these rosters, but we're not out-shooting them. So got to make some adjustments there.
I feel like it's just a case of we just hadn't seen this team put together a full game yet. You know, it's kind of a recurring theme for really
Oklahoma,
Oklahoma. Even the second half they kind of slacked off some.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a recurring theme for really all Tennessee teams, except maybe the baseball team as of recently. They play really good at times in the game, but then at other times they don't play so well. I mean, we've seen women's basketball this year. They can play fantastic for 3 quarters, but that one quarter gets them. This Tennessee basketball team has not put together a full 40 minutes yet. The football team, we've seen them put together 3 really good quarters, and that one quarter gets them. We just need to see them, and I agree with Matt here. You can't get behind early.
No, and I was going to say we can't get behind, period. This team's not a shooting team to be able to get themselves out of that. They need to play from either one possession or ahead in every game, because if they find themselves down 10, now we're saying this, they were down 16 against Vanderbilt, they came back. But typically when they're down by that much, they try to force the offense, and it just doesn't work out. We don't have those type of shooters. We don't have those type of offensive players to be able to shoot our way back into these games. Vanderbilt obviously is a little bit of an outlier there, but
well, I'm going to disagree with you to an extent. I agree that this team is not good enough to just, outshoot you to come back, like hit a bunch of threes and come back. But the way that they did it yesterday, to where they finally settled in on defense, they just choked Vanderbilt for the first 8 minutes of the half yesterday, and they just kept driving to the basket and getting easy deuces. That is how you come back in a game where you're down by 16. You can't just throw up threes all day long and say, well, I hope this one goes in and hope we can come back from here. You've got to make sure that you put the ball in the hoop, which is what Tennessee did to go along with that stifling defense in the first about 8 to 10 minutes of that second half.
100%. You got anything else in closing for obviously Tennessee versus Vanderbilt?
Not as far as Tennessee versus Vanderbilt, but we got a
bye week this week, sort of.
Yes, sort of. Let's see. The 22nd. What is that?
That'll be a week from. Well, it's Saturday, I believe.
Yes, you're correct. So no midweek game this week, but Saturday you travel to College Station. That's a big game. That's a big game. We talked at the beginning of the SEC slate. You need to try to go 50% in road games in conference. And right now you are sitting at, let's see, 1 and 2, 1 and 3, 2 and 3. You're sitting at 2 and 4 right now on the road in conference play, and you've got 3 more road games left. You really need to win 2 out of these 3 road games, and then make sure that you win the remainder of your home games. You've only got 5 left.
You only got 2 home games left.
Yeah. So you really need to win those 2 home games. You need to win 4 out of the last 5 games to really put yourself in a good position going into the SEC tournament. Get that double bye. You're sitting right now tied with Ole Miss at 6th in the conference.
Yep.
Sitting a half game behind Missouri, 2 games back of A&M and Florida, 3 games. Let's see. I'm sorry, a game and a half back of Texas A&M, Missouri, 2.5 back of Alabama, and then a full 3.5 games behind Auburn. Auburn's pretty much locked up their spot. I mean, they do still have to play Alabama again.
One more time. Yep. But they, depending on how that would go, they would. How does that work? If they split the series, does it go to the last matchup? How does that work?
It would go to common opponents at that point. I'm pretty sure. Opponent.
Okay, I was going to say, I wondered how that worked.
Yeah, I mean, Auburn's in the driver's seat. You still play A&M again. You still have to play Alabama. So
Tennessee has a really good chance to lock up a double bye, though.
They do.
Depending on how they play against A&M and against Alabama. Those two teams, too, being both top 10 opponents, that also has a very, very big way. I mean, you could be fourth in the SEC and still lock up a number 1 seed depending on how you play these final 5 games. Like, seriously, if you beat A&M and you beat Alabama, you could almost drop one to, I don't know, LSU and still lock up a 1 seed. Seriously. So Tennessee, obviously, every week's important. This week is important to rest up, get back in the film room, whatnot, and get ready for A&M on the road. That place is going to be rocking because that game seriously could be for a double bye in the championship or the SEC tournament.
Yeah, it would be, and we won't discuss this just because we got plenty of time to do it. But I'm gonna throw this little bone out here. The SEC tournament this year is going to be massive as far as March Madness seedings go. It's going to be massive.
I think it'd absolutely help you. I don't think it's going to hurt you that much.
I think it can seating wise as far as a 1, 2, or 3 line, but we've got a couple of weeks that we can discuss this because there's still a lot of ball left to be played. But that's all we've got.
The only game they're playing is A&M next Saturday. It's another nooner on ESPN. That might actually help the Vols. I feel like we kind of.
I like the noon games.
Yeah, I think we kind of tend to play a little bit better at noon. But big game against A&M at College Station. We'll see. We'll see how it is, and hopefully we're talking about another Vol victory next week. All right, what's on the docket? We got segment 2. We're going to be talking about Lady Vols, and I guess before we get into that, I need to let you guys know who our segment 2 sponsor is, and that is, you already know it, it's P&L Business Services. We know firsthand that getting your monthly reporting, invoicing, bill pay, taxes, and other essential business services right is critical. That's why at P&L Business Services, we go beyond bookkeeping by providing you with everything you need in your back office so you can have your time back and the peace of mind to do what you love most, which is building your business. Behind every successful business is a great bookkeeper. Reach out to them out of Oak Ridge, Tennessee. It's as simple as going online to pnlbusinessservices.com, and they can help you with all of your Uncle Sam's needs, because nobody likes to pay him too much, at least. But no, thank you, P&L, for your continued support, and we're gonna keep on going. We went a little long on that segment, so we're gonna try to speed it up a little bit here as we talk about women's basketball. As they got a massive. I mean, this was just an absolute butt whooping, which I don't think was to the surprise of any of us. But they handled Auburn out in the woodshed, 99-61, and Michael, a little bit of everybody got a piece of pie in this one.
They did, and Tennessee used a massive second quarter to really take the advantage in this game, as it was 22-20 at the end of the first, and Auburn was hanging in there, but doubled up Auburn in the second quarter, scoring 28 points to Auburn's 14, taking a big 16-point lead in the halftime, and just never looked back. I mean, it was 21-18 advantage Tennessee by the end of the third. But then fourth quarter, it really just looked like Auburn had kind of packed their bags and was getting ready for the next game, as Tennessee outscored them 28-9 in the fourth frame.
See, that's where I'm more proud of them than anything. I mean, how many times we talked about this team not being able to finish a game? And in the fourth quarter of this game, our ladies are running around, diving for the basketball, taking every advantage that they could defensively. And then obviously that turned into offense in the fourth quarter. And I think this was a clear-cut image, like a visual representation of what it's like when you can rotate 10, 15 girls in a game. And then you get to that fourth quarter where Auburn couldn't do that, and they were absolutely gassed. And obviously they weren't in the game at that point, so that might have aided to that. But overall, you still had a fresh set of 5 for the Lady Vols, and they were running around Auburn in that fourth quarter. It was really good to see them finish the game strong. That, to me, I was the most proud of that, in my opinion. What say you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The way that they just came out, and they never let off the gas at all. They played this was one of those games, they played a full 40-minute basketball game. Love to see that. You had 5 players in double figures in this game, led by Jewel Spear. Jewel Spear, the last few games, has really started to come along. After we didn't necessarily dog her, but we were concerned about her. She kind of disappeared for a stretch.
She went a little cold.
Yeah, but she started to come around the last couple of games. She led the Lady Vols in scoring with 17. You had Ruby Whitehorn with 15, Z Spearman 14, Talasia Cooper with 10, Kanaya Boyd with 11, and then you still had Samara Spencer with 9, Tess Darby with 8, Julian Hollingshed with 7. Everybody but 3 players on this team scored in the ball game, and one of them, you mentioned a little bit. Everybody got a piece of the pie. What about the way that Avery Strickland came in the game? She gets the ball in the middle. Her defender kind of falls down. She recognizes that, goes to the basket, and through contact, knocks down the layup. And the way the bench just went absolutely insane after that. You could tell the Lady Vols were just having fun at that point.
Oh yeah, I mean you had 5 in double figs. You had Samara Spencer with 9. You had who is that? Tess Darby with 8. I mean you almost had 7 in double figures. That was huge. Not any one player just absolutely had a game out of their mind, but the old team just kind of just played well together. Defense led to offense, transition, whatnot. Matt actually brought up a comment, I think, from the last segment. I do kind of want to answer this because I don't think it'd take long, but he kind of asked how many SEC teams do we think gets in the tournament? And I do think it's definitely a conference record, but I think, is it 12? I'm thinking it's 12, right? That's the right answer, correct?
I'm going to say 12.
I know a lot of people are trying to say 13, but I think 12 is not even the safe answer, but I mean, that's what I'm thinking right now. But
yeah, I would probably say 12 just to be safe. I mean, I've got the conference standings pulled up. South Carolina, LSU for the men's side, they're out.
Yeah, Arkansas, I think, is kind of slowly playing their way in, but they would be the one.
Oklahoma is out. They still could play their way in, but I don't see it happening. Georgia and Arkansas are the 2 question marks.
Yep.
Arkansas, as you mentioned, they're playing a little bit better now. Could play their way into a spot. Georgia started off SEC play pretty decent, but they've kind of fell off. They both could absolutely play their way in, but I'm going to say that it's 12 teams get in. I think what I saw this week, Georgia was the one of the last 4 out or first 4 out, and I think Arkansas was the very next team out.
Wow. So that because that Kentucky wins, really, that's what's carrying them right now as far as being in the conversation. So
that right there would be 11 teams if Arkansas and Georgia both are out. But I think that 12 gets in this.
What's crazy is we're talking about that. Arkansas dang near beat Alabama as well. Like they were right there the entire game, if I'm not mistaken. So it's crazy how deep this league is this year.
The big thing for me is I think that the ACC, who has been a power basketball conference for a long time, they're only getting 2 teams in, and that's going to be, Duke and then probably Clemson, and that's probably it. Maybe
North
Louisville.
Carolina, not that's
North
crazy.
Carolina is just
they're terrible, ain't they?
Year. Yeah.
Oh. Wow. But yeah, let's log back in here. I just wanted to make sure that we didn't skip over Matt there. But Lady Vols, a big win. Ruby Whitehorn, I mentioned she had another good game at 15 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists. I'm telling you, she is kind of dangerous with the ball in her hands as far as getting to the basket. I love the way she finishes. Yeah. I kind of wish she would do it a little bit more. Jewel Spear just continuing with the stroke. Look, Lady Vols hot from 3, 14 to 28. They took plenty of them, but they were making plenty of them. I don't mind that. 7 to 10 from the free throw line. They out rebounded Auburn by 2. Kind of wish that was a little bit more of a discrepancy there, but assist numbers 23 to 7, 23 assists on 39 made field goals.
That's the big stat for me. I mean, I know you got 39 made baskets there, so it's a lot. When you kind of look at the ratio there, 23 assists,
more than half,
39 made baskets. But in this game, how many times did you see Tennessee get steals and then just one person break away down the court? So there wasn't an assist to be had at that point. And then a few times you would have like Ruby Whitehorn or Talasia Cooper just break somebody off the dribble and get to the basket. So when they can do that, I'm okay with the assist numbers being a little bit low. But you absolutely have got to have those assists. And that's why I think you saw the success that you did from Tennessee in this game. Shooting 55% from the field, almost 56% from the field, was because you're taking shots off of a pass and not off of a dribble.
Yep. We talk about having a complete game and how this Lady Vol team tend to take a quarter off. Not this one. This was the complete game. When you play both sides of the ball for 4 quarters, this is what you get. I mean, you're talking about coming out 22-point first, 28-point second, 21-point third, and 28-point fourth. That is what we expect out of this Lady Vols team. And honestly, maybe even a little bit more than what we expected. Look, going into the season, I would never have thought this team would get to 100 or even close to 100 as many times they have this year. But they're proving that this style of ball works. And I love it when it does work. They played in control. We see all the time what it looks like when they're not in control, and it's like, what are we doing? Have we even played ball before? But this game right here is picture perfect as far as what I think Kim Caldwell visioned for her Lady Vols this year.
Yep, completely agree with you. Any other thoughts on this game before we move ahead to today's game against Ole Miss?
Yeah, let's move along.
All right. So as I mentioned, Lady Vols played Ole Miss today and come away with an 80-71 victory. And this game was very much, I won't say in doubt, but it was very much an uneasy feeling throughout the game. As Ole Miss is a team this year. They're 17-8 overall, 8-5 in conference play. I think they've played a lot of the I won't say bottom tier SEC teams, but kind of lower tier SEC teams this year. And I think they're like the last part of their schedule is loaded. I'm going to look that up real quick. Yeah, they finish off. They had Tennessee today playing against Missouri this coming week. And then they finish with South Carolina and on the road at LSU. But they have beat some good competition. They beat Kentucky this year, who's number 8 in the country. They beat Vanderbilt, who was ranked at the time. Just barely lost to Texas. I mean, they've played some decent competition in conference play. But, I mean, this was a game that Ole Miss is scrappy, and they just would not go away. Anytime that you thought Tennessee was going to pull away, Ole Miss would have an answer.
Yeah, but they didn't have an answer for Joel Spear, and she absolutely carried this team. I mean, just this is exactly what you expect from one of your returners to be the leader of the team. She absolutely popped off. Matt says, big win against Ole Miss. For the ladies, they are ranked above us in the conference. I think that's massive. Yes, they were 8-4 before this matchup, and Tennessee does get a game back on them as now they are 8-5, and I believe we're 6-6. So still got some work to do. But I think the Lady Vols, if they win out, could absolutely leapfrog them and get a double bye. But that's going to take some work. But overall, Joel Spear, Z Spearman, 14 points, and a lot of that was second chance buckets. Where, there was a shot that was put up because we were late in the shot clock, and Z Spearman's right there to catch it, put it right back up. I mean, that was exactly what you want to see from Z Spearman, as she's, like I said, one of the bigger ladies on the court all the time. You expect her to out-rebound her opponents, but in this game particularly, we did get out-rebounded. 40-33.
We did, and this was the one takeaway that I had from this game that I was not happy about. Because at one point in the first quarter, not the first half, the first quarter, Tennessee was out rebounding Ole Miss 16-6.
Yeah.
16-6 in the first quarter. And you see, you only get 19 more rebounds in the game, and Ole Miss gets 34. That is why Ole Miss was able to hang around in this game, was because of just, I guess, changing their mindset and going in and getting those rebounds. I mean, offensive rebounds, Ole Miss ended up almost doubling you up on offensive rebounds. They had 17 offensive rebounds. I don't have the second chance point stat here, but a lot of their points came off of second chance off those offensive rebounds.
Well, and Matt came in, and he's 100% right. Cooper drove him a little crazy today. I mean, she had 8 turnovers, I believe. Didn't have her best night shooting. She only had 11 points on the field. But she did get 6 steals. I mean, it doesn't necessarily cancel out the turnovers that she had. But I think that's what kept Ole Miss in this game. Ole Miss is a feisty defense. I will say that. I mean, they were one of the best defenses in the SEC, in my opinion. I just obviously don't have the offensive firepower to keep up. But
I don't think they're very good, but like you said, they're feisty, they're scrappy.
Yeah,
they're gonna go after every single loose ball, every single rebound.
Well, they kind of hit you with the full press like we do. I mean, it's so it puts a lot of pressure on you coming down the court, and at that point it causes panic, and then you throw errant passes or whatever. I mean, it does. I mean, there's a science behind it, and Ole Miss has kind of mastered that. I mean, and I tell you what, it was frustrating to watch there for a little bit in the first and second quarter, honestly. Where I'm just like, man, we can't really get anything going. And Ole Miss was kind of slowly lurking. I mean, they did it just enough to kind of stay in the ball game the entire time. And credit to the Lady Vols. I mean, they kind of kept them. I won't say at arm's length, but maybe at like elbows length. They were a little, but at the end of the day, I mean, like I said, it's Cooper. You expect to kind of be your standout player, but I think I love the fact that the ladies were able to rally around the fact that she wasn't having her best game, and they all stepped up in the presence of that, or the absence of that, and really had a great. I mean, Jewel Spear. This is her career game. I think 28 points might be the best she's ever had at the University of Tennessee. I could be wrong on that, but I've not remembered her scoring anything more than that. She hit 5 threes, or I think she hit 5 of the team's 6 total threes in the game. So
look, she only missed 2 shots in the game. She was 9 of 11.
She was locked in.
She was 5 of 7 from the 3-point line, and then 5 of 6 from the free throw stripe.
She was locked in.
Yeah, she was absolutely locked in.
Z Spearman, there was a play that she hit too, where the shot clock was running out, and she hit us with a daggone little spin around, fade away, little jump. I was like, whoo. Okay, and that wasn't. I think it was in the first half, but I mean that kind of got me a little excited right there. Kind of reminded me of
Dirk Nowitzki,
Rakia. So
yeah, Rakia, she would do that turnaround, but
yeah,
I was thinking the little turnaround she did right at the end of the half, it was like Dirk Nowitzki-esque.
Yeah,
that little turnaround Jay that he likes.
The commenters are like, yeah, there's just no defense for that.
No, it's not. And something about Z Spearman is I think that she is the X factor on this team. She is the one that we talk about how good Talasia Cooper is being, Ruby Whitehorn, Jewel Spear been up and down this year, but this team is going to go as far as Z Spearman is going to take them. Kind of like Zakai Zeigler, Z Spearman is not just the number one go-to option on this team. She's not the best shooter on this team, but the way that she plays on the floor, she's going to get on the boards for you. She can shoot the 3, and she's done so pretty well as of recently.
Yeah.
But if she disappears or she gets into foul trouble, like she tends to do sometimes, then this team is going to struggle with her not on the floor, because nothing against Jillian Hollingshed. I love the way Jillian Hollingshed plays, but this offense is also, the style of play is not to her skill set the way it is.
Like she's a little bit, and I hate to say it like this, I do feel like she's a little bit less athletic for this type of offense. The way you got to sprint up and down the court, I feel like that's where she struggles just a little bit. But I do feel like once she gets in the post, she's dynamite.
When she gets in the post, she's good.
Yeah,
but she's not built for that up and down style play.
Yeah,
but credit to her. She's definitely in a lot better athletic shape this year than she was last year.
100%.
So she can play that for a little bit, but there's a reason that you see her with 16 minutes on the floor and somebody like Z Spearman with 24 minutes on the floor. Z is just more athletic. She's more built for this style. But Julian Hollingshed is going to go out there and give you everything that she has whenever she's on the floor. So credit to her. I'm not 100%. At all talking down about her, but I'm stating the facts here. She's not quite built for this the way that other people are. But Z Spearman is absolutely, this team is going to go how she goes this year as far as what she does when she's on the floor.
100%. Any final thoughts on I say a big win. I think it was important because as the Lady Vols and the men's, you're continuing to win the games you're supposed to win. Like you've got to win to stay, in that tier that you want to be in as far as postseason. So 80-71, maybe on paper doesn't look that great, but overall, I mean, I think in a night where I would say you probably didn't even. I would honestly say, even though they finished, they had a great second half. By the way, they finished the night 52.5%, but. That wasn't really the story of the entire game. I mean, the first half was kind of a struggle. I mean, Ole Miss's defense was locking us down. It took us a little while to kind of burst. Even though our first quarter we beat them by 10 points, it was still only 17-point first quarter. And that was where I think 5 of the points came in like the last minute or 2 of that quarter. So, I mean, it's one of those things where the ladies overcame that. Obviously, shot okay at the end of it. But I think a lot of that had to do with Jewel Spears' dynamite game. And I love the fact that they were able to get it done against a feisty Ole Miss team. So they got a big week coming up this week.
Yeah, they do. Thursday night, they host Alabama. That's going to be a big game. Alabama, they are ahead of you right now in the SEC standings. They're behind you in the overall rankings. That's going to be a big game. And then you go to Florida to wrap up the week next Sunday. Florida, a 500 team right now. They're below you in conference play. Just looking at the SEC standings right now, Tennessee smack dab in the middle. They are tied for 8th, I believe. Yes, tied for 8th with Vanderbilt right now. You've got a chance that you can work your way up. I do think that a top 4 seed is kind of out of the possibility with only 4 games remaining. You do play. You beat Ole Miss today, who is
I'm gonna disagree.
Okay.
Here's why.
I was gonna say I'm gonna ask you. Show your work.
Yep, Kentucky is right now holding the 4 spot.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're 3 games back from Kentucky.
Yep.
And their final 4 games are at Missouri. They should win. Versus LSU. It's going to be tough. Versus Tennessee. You could flip that. And then their final game is at South Carolina, who, mind you, just lost by 30 points to UConn. They're going to be pissed to finish that year. So they could actually end the year on a 3-game losing streak. Now, Tennessee, Lady Vols, there's no room for error.
But there's absolutely no room for error.
But I do believe that it's still dangling there for us to take it.
But here's why I don't think they will get there, and it's Oklahoma.
Okay.
The last 4 games of Oklahoma's schedule, Vanderbilt at home, at Arkansas, who is a sub 500 team. Matter of fact, they're 9-18 on the season, only have 2 conference wins. At Florida, who I mentioned is a 500 team, and then you get Alabama at home to end the season.
Okay.
It's a very favorable schedule for Oklahoma to end the year. Ole Miss, I mentioned, they have a little bit of a tough road. They got beat by Tennessee today, which helps. And then South Carolina and LSU, along with a Missouri game, you could jump there. But I think that the highest Tennessee is going to be able to get is going to be 5th.
You're probably right.
You mentioned it. There still is that slight possibility that you can get a top 4, but you have to be perfect.
Yeah, and it's going to be hard because you're trying. I mean, you're facing what 2 or 3 of those teams that you got to jump or leapfrog. So I mean, Tennessee's definitely not got the easiest road to get there. But I who knows? Maybe even if they don't get there, I think that's okay. Like I said, I think in our first year expectations, I just wanted to be in the top 5. But overall, I do feel like, unfortunately, the SEC is just really good this year again. And so I think the Lady Vols are actually as good as they can be or want to be. I think they could beat anybody that they line up against, but maybe the overall standings won't necessarily mirror that or reflect that. So,
yeah, but once again, like we were talking about with the men, the only loss that the Lady Vols have right now that's not a top 15 loss is that lone Vanderbilt loss.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's not like they're getting beat by bad competition, and they've still only lost 6 games by a total of 20 points. Yep. So this Lady Vols team is they've got everything in front of them. They can compete with anybody on any given night. Now, going for the overall picture here, because, we kind of talked about the men, I think that the lady side is pretty clear cut that it's 10 teams going to get into the tournament. And it's the top 10 teams who are all sitting at 18-9 or better in conference play. The 11th spot right now is Florida, sitting at 13-13 overall. Mississippi State might be a bubble team. So I think that the max you're going to see is 10 teams get into the tournament on the lady side.
I think you're right on that, 100%. It's just unfortunate. I think it's just because it's so top heavy in the SEC right now. That your final 5, 6, 7 teams in the league is just getting bullied. I mean, you're looking at Mississippi State's 5-8, and they're 18-9 overall. But Florida 4-8 in the conference, A&M 3-8 in the conference, and then Auburn, Missouri, Georgia, Arkansas all have 10 losses in the conference. I don't think that there's a chance they can get to the postseason. So I agree with you on that. But overall, Tennessee sitting at 6-6. You do have to face Alabama. You do have to face Kentucky. You're both sitting top 5 right now in the conference. You do get to face Florida and Georgia. I think you got to win those 2 games. But Tennessee's got a very good possibility of finishing above 500 in the conference. And I think that's gonna pay dividends come tournament time.
Yep, completely agree with you, man. So that's gonna wrap up our Lady Vols talk for today. We've got one more segment. We're gonna go through 3 more SEC football teams. look at their schedule for this past season. But before we do that, our segment 3 sponsor, you already know them. It is Kaizen Painting. Do you want a colorful life? Kaizen is a painting and drywall company that provides residential, commercial, exterior, and interior services. At Kaizen Painting, we understand the importance of a beautifully painted home and properly installed and repaired drywall. We're here to bring your vision to life. We care about providing you with a personalized, efficient, and quality service. If you live in Knoxville and surroundings, contact us for a free estimate at kaizenpainting.com. Color your life the Kaizen way. So, Skylar mentioned it. We've kind of gone through and seen how far off we have been with the SEC teams this year as far as their wins go. And right now we're sitting dead even as far as the amount of games off that we were. We'll see how this week goes as we've got starting off Texas A&M. They went 8-4 overall this year, pretty much on par with what FanDuel set their expectations at 8.5 wins. They were 5-3 in SEC play, but what's crazy is they were, until that last week, very much in the picture to be in the conference title game.
Yeah, and then at that point, almost set themselves up to win or lose. You could make it the playoff just because you made the conference title game. But overall, Texas was a little bit too much for them. They finished 8-4 overall. I think that was still a massive leap from what I think most of us expected, being 5-3 in SEC play. I think some of that aided to some of the scheduling. I think their schedule kind of rocked for them as far as who they got, and then where they also got to play them. Texas getting them at home at the end of the year, I thought was massive. They weren't able to finish it out, but it was a really good game. But you nailed it, man. 8-4. They went 8-4 overall. That is a perfect prediction. And I believe that is your second. That is your second.
That's 2 of them that I've got.
I suck. So I went 7-5. I'm not mad at my prediction here, and obviously being 1 game off, I'm not mad at that. But overall, I think this was a very good year for first-year head coach Mike Elko.
Yeah, absolutely. And I felt like there was Texas A&M fans that just had unreal expectations this year. As I'm going to try to,
well, they didn't want to take a step back, right? I mean, that's the 8-4's the bar, I guess, right, for that fan base. So
yeah, I'm going to try to pull up a couple of the comments from our Texas A&M video this year, as there was people like, look, Elko he's the man. I mean, I don't see why you're sitting here saying that they're going to be anything less than 10-3 or 10-2.
Yep.
Let's see. So this one guy was saying Elko is a football coach, unlike the con man and Jimbo. Texas A&M is going to have a fantastic year. We got keep sleeping on the Aggies. You are so wrong. Aggies are loaded, and finally, in all capital letters, finally have elite coaching. Watch out. And I completely agree with that. They finally have some really good coaching, but year 1 expectations should be somewhere around that 8-4 mark. It shouldn't be, we're national championship contenders in year 1.
Which they weren't far from that. Let's be honest here. But at the end of the day, I mean, like you mentioned, I mean, with every first-year head coach comes a whole new system. You can't, you just can't expect, even if you did have the absolute rock star caliber of players, can't expect year 1 to just already have that standard, right? You can already you can implement it and set that foundation, but the chance of that being, coming in year 1 natty, like I just didn't see that. 7-5, I thought was safe bet. And like I said, I'm not mad at that. I think I had them. Let's see. I want to go back through because I actually know exactly what my picks were for A&M during this time. I had them losing the opener to Notre Dame. Now, and I do believe that did happen, right? Or did they beat Notre Dame? No. They lost. Yeah, so I had them losing the opening game. Yeah, and that was a great game. And that was a great game. That was they actually showed and proved they could hang with some of the best. But then I had them winning the next 4 games against McNeese, Florida, Bowling Green, and Arkansas. I believe they did take care of business against those 4 teams.
Yep.
And then I had them losing to Missouri.
Yep, both of us had that. They ended up beating Missouri.
They did, and that was good.
Dominated them, 41-10.
Yeah, just crushed them, and I believe that was at Missouri. Like they just absolutely took them.
No, this one was at home.
No, you're right, 100%. who did they play? That I felt like they got maybe it was at A&M. But then they played at Mississippi State. Believe they got that win. I
Yep.
had that down. And then I had them losing to LSU, which I believe they did beat LSU.
They did beat LSU. I'm looking. Both of us had a loss to LSU, but they did beat them 38-23. That one was at home.
But I think they lost to South Carolina.
And
right?
this was the one they got dog walked in. This was at South Carolina, and South Carolina beat them 44-20.
Maybe that's what I was thinking of. But they lost to South Carolina. South Carolina proved obviously to be a really good team. I did have them beating South Carolina. But then New Mexico State, obviously that's a win. And then I had them losing the final two against Auburn, Texas.
You nailed that. You
Yep.
nailed the loss to Auburn and then the loss to Texas. I had them beating Auburn, I believe, but then losing to Texas. Yes, that's what I had. So you nailed those last two games. It was that South Carolina game in there that really messed the two of us up.
But overall, it doesn't matter. You still got the overall record correct. So congratulations to you. You have a 1-game lead, my boy. And
but
I'm not mad at that prediction though. I mean, 7-5, 8-4, and they went 8-4.
Fine.
So we both went for the under here, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing that does scare me for A&M going forward, I think they found their guy in Marcel Reed. He was young this year. You could see that.
Well, and he's lucky that they had them because their season could have been a little bit worse without him, honestly, in my opinion.
Oh, when Wegman went down with that injury, yeah, it absolutely could have been a lot worse if he hadn't have stepped up and filled the role that he did. But he had a couple of really good games. The New Mexico State game, 268 yards passing, and then the Auburn game, 297, and that one was a 4 overtime game that they dropped. So, I mean, had some really good games. I think they're going to keep rolling under Mike Elko. He's a very good coach. I was nervous whenever they hired him, but I think he was a fantastic hire. We're going to see Texas A&M start to reap the benefits going forward.
Right on. So the next team we're going to be talking about is USC Junior, aka South Carolina, and they went 9-3. This is a whopping development as we both had them going 5-7. What a job Shane Beamer did to flip this thing around. Wow. They obviously their quarterback's legit. Every talk about him in the offseason was fair in Lenore Sellers. Kind of thought it was overblown that he didn't have anything else to talk about, so he's just pumping up his quarterback. Well, no, his quarterback was pretty daggum good. Honestly, arguably could have beat Alabama.
Should have beat Alabama.
Yeah, I mean, seriously.
And really, look, South Carolina was about 3, maybe 4 plays away from being 11-1 this year.
Yeah.
That LSU game, they should have won it.
I mean, the only team that dog walked him was Ole Miss, who dog walked Georgia too. So I mean, it's unfortunate that Ole Miss was just as inconsistent as they were as well. But South Carolina was a really good football team this year. I think they just had a really tough schedule, as a lot of teams did. No, man, this was a great, phenomenal job of Shane Beamer. And I hate saying that. I don't like Shane Beamer whatsoever. But
I don't either.
I not necessarily personally. I don't know Shane Beamer, but like just the way he coaches, the way I look at it as a Tennessee fan, not a big fan of Shane Beamer. So. But no, he did a phenomenal job, and
I mean the way that he kind of acts too. I mean, if you watch the bowl game against Illinois, I mean that is a prime example of why I don't like Shane Beamer. Just the way that Brett Bielema was, Brett Bielema. Sorry, the way that he was just toying with Shane Beamer the entire game. We pulled up that little cat meme after the bowl game as well. That was exactly what it was, and just the way that he carried himself after or during that game and after the game, it's not something I'm a fan of.
No, for sure.
I mean, we both had Shane Beamer possibly getting fired by the. I don't think we had him getting fired in the middle of the season. I
thought
it was
this
after
was
the
just
season
last year. Yeah, I didn't think it was going to be in the middle of the year or anything. I just thought that maybe, at the end of it, I would have thought the Clemson loss would have kind of been the nail in the coffin per se, but it wasn't. They actually ended up beating Clemson. But I had, what's crazy too is this team really started out, I mean, dang near losing to Old Dominion to start the year.
Yeah.
They did pull that one out, which I predicted. I did predict them beating Kentucky at Kentucky.
And they dominated Kentucky.
Yeah, Kentucky did bounce back to almost beat Georgia, but, other than that, Kentucky was terrible. I had them losing to LSU, which didn't happen. No, wait, that did
happen.
happen. That did happen. Shouldn't have happened. So I was perfect in the first quarter or first third then because I had them beating Akron. And then here's where I just went off the rails because I had them on this next third here. I had them losing every single one of them. I had Ole Miss loss, Alabama loss, Oklahoma loss, A&M loss, and I believe they did lose to Ole Miss and Alabama. They beat Oklahoma, A&M, and I had them. I predicted them to beat Vanderbilt, which is fine. But they also beat Missouri, which I predicted them to lose. And then they beat Wofford and then beat Clemson. So their 3 losses on the year was to Ole Miss, Alabama, and LSU.
And what about this run that South Carolina went on? So they started off the season 3-3.
And
as you mentioned, they
6-0.
Yeah, as you mentioned, they beat Old Dominion, Kentucky on the road, and then Akron, losing to LSU, Ole Miss, and at Alabama, and then 6 games in a row to finish the season 9-3 on the doorstep of a CFP. That's crazy to think about the turnaround that they had this year, but obviously that bowl loss to Illinois was very disappointing, especially when you consider that South Carolina was at full strength. I mean, they didn't have a bunch of guys opting out because most of them were underclassmen coming back next season. So it was very disappointing, that bowl loss, but still a very good season, a great turnaround season for the Gamecocks and for Shane Beamer this season.
No, right on. This was great job. Matt even said he got Coach of the Year award, right? I don't know.
I believe Clark Lee got it this year, if I'm not mistaken.
Fair enough.
It could have been Shane Beamer and Clark Lee. They could have shared it this year, but I kind of think Clark Lee was the one that got Coach of the Year in the SEC.
In a year where usually coaches get fired, there wasn't a single one,
and not a single coaching change. Like nobody leaving for another job.
And I'm going to throw myself under the bus here. I think I predicted 3 getting fired this year.
I had 4. I had Beamer, Pittman,
Clark
Lee, and
Billy Napier. Yep.
Yeah, I had 4 with possibly a 5th being Mark Stoops.
He should be fired.
Yeah,
but I'm okay with him saying that.
But yeah, I had 4.
That's insane. That means be ready because next year could be that year where you have just like absolutely clean slate, 5, 6, 7 teams just getting rid of their coaches. So kind of intrigued to see how that plays out.
Yeah, just a spoiler, guys, because we mentioned that we will be keeping a football segment like throughout the off season. I mean, it's list season, so once we're done with our previews or our look backs, recaps of last year, we're probably going to be looking at coaches we think will be on the hot seat going forward this year. We're going to be looking at different topics like that going forward. So once we get to that point, if you have a topic you want us to cover, shoot us a message on YouTube, on Facebook, whatever. Put a comment here. We will star that comment and write those down and see about looking at those in the off season. But it's list season. Got to find stuff to talk about.
That's right. Oh, there's plenty to talk about. I mean, shoot.
Oh yeah,
spring practice. Spring
ball
far
is
away,
right around the corner.
Exactly. So, but no, Beamer got SEC Coach of the Year for real. All right.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I don't doubt that one bit. I didn't follow it. So, last team, real quick, LSU. I am so mad. For the ones listening at home, nothing crazy happened in video. Okay, it's just the fact that we just seen the graphic here. They went 8-4 overall. I really thought they went 9-3. I don't know why. I did not. Anyways, I thought I had my first perfect prediction, but what's even worse is not only did that not happen, I beat Michael by 1 here. And so now what I'm seeing here is we're still freaking tied, dude. This is wild stuff here. This is wild. So, Michael, you predicted them to go 10-2. They went 8-4 overall. Where were you wrong here?
So let me pull up their actual schedule. So game one, I was wrong. As I had them beating USC to start the season, and that was just a crazy game.
Yeah, I did too.
In Las Vegas, that USC knocked off LSU. I had them winning. Let me see. I had them winning all the way until the Ole Miss game. That game coming off a bye. at home, actually. So I had them winning every game up until then. And what did they do? They went ahead and they knocked off Ole Miss too in overtime. And then I also had them losing to Alabama, which they did. But I had them beating Texas A&M and Florida, and they lost both of those games. So, started off the season looking pretty well after that loss to USC, as they were 6-1 going into the Texas A&M game on October the 26th, and then dropped 3 straight at A&M, at home to Bama, in which they just got dog walked 42-13. And then an inexcusable loss on the road to Florida, 27-16. But a Florida team that had finally started to find their identity at that point. They just caught them at the wrong time. I mean, if they were to play Florida at the beginning of the season, say around September 14th when they played South Carolina, I think LSU wins that game. They just caught Florida at the wrong time of the season.
No, 100%. Yeah, I had the only 3 losses I had for LSU were against Ole Miss, Alabama, and Oklahoma to end the year. Clearly, I was way wrong on almost all of that, as they dropped to USC. They did drop to Alabama, and then they dropped to Florida. And who was the 4th one?
Texas A&M.
Texas A&M. Wow. Yeah. So that's unfortunate. Not Billy Napier. Brian Kelly, proving us once again why you shouldn't believe him.
Look, spoiler alert, I mentioned list season coming up for us. Brian Kelly will 100% be on my list.
No shot. He can't, dude. He can't. If he got let go, he would literally, y'all can say what y'all want about this new. He would literally be owed like $60 million if he got fired next year.
I'm sorry, but
That's
Fisher was just given like $90 million from A&M. And I know A&M's got the money. LSU does too. They might not have A&M type money, but
they had the money until they signed Brian Kelly, and then they threw it all away. I don't know. Maybe you're right. I just this is insane, man. LSU obviously didn't hire Brian Kelly to go 8-4, 9-3, and 9-4 in his other season. I think his first year was his best year. So obviously LSU's got some work to do in year 4 under Brian Kelly. And I think he will be under, I think, maybe the most pressure under anybody coming up in year 4 for him in his tenure. So no, it's tough. We were off by a total of 6 and 3 teams here. Not terrible. It's just we were really wrong about South Carolina. That's okay. We were pretty much on the money with A&M and LSU. Overall, through 12 teams, we are still deadlock tied. And again, I will reiterate this. We do not know. I don't think we do. I know I don't know until I see this graphic as far as who predicted what. I could go back and watch it and find out for myself, but I'm enjoying finding out live here in front of you guys that, as far as who did what better in the prediction segment. But as of right now, we've got 4 teams left. And we're going to be doing 3 next week, and then we're going to do Tennessee's all on their own. And we are deadlock tied.
Yeah, I have looked at these whenever I made the graphics. I made all the graphics in one day. So,
Okay.
But I have not gone back and looked at any of these graphics since that day. So it's also a surprise to me to see what I predicted and what Skylar predicted.
Spoiler alert, I know we predicted the same thing for Tennessee. So next week's going to determine who got it. And the Tennessee one, spoiler alert, we actually both got
neither one of us got the perfect correct games.
Yeah,
we both picked Georgia, but we both picked different losses. That was not the correct.
And I thought you had it, but I forgot you picked NC State, not Arkansas. So yeah. But yeah, either way, this has been a fun segment. And I can't wait to kind of finish out the series. So
yeah, but real quick, we do want to touch real quick on Tennessee baseball, Tennessee softball. As baseball, man, they
3-0.
3-0, and let's see, they outscored Hofstra. Let's see, 18-13. It's
40.
I can't do math right now.
Hang on. Lock in 33, 13, 46.
46-2.
Yes, I hope that's right. Sounds right. Looks right.
Yep.
It was. Oh, and by the way, 2 grannies. Grand slams, salamis in one weekend. This team, I do feel like, has taken a step back. I know that sounds dumb, but I don't
Overall,
think
yes.
I think those kids don't care. Like they're out there playing ball, and this was in cold weather, and they did this. Like this was honestly the final 2 games were played in abysmal weather. Yesterday we went to the game. It was raining. It was cold. I don't know how anybody wanted to be there. Obviously, the basketball game was going on, so a lot of the fans didn't even get to the game till like the 5th inning, 6th inning, and didn't matter. Tony's team was locked in. So credit to the coaching staff having those boys ready to go. And then today, dude, it was snowing at one point today, and they're out there and still hitting grand salamis. That's insane that they're carrying the ball. Obviously, 400. I think Reese Chapman's ball went every bit of 350, 360 to left. He had an Oppo Taco Grand Salami, I think, and in the cold. I just cannot wait to see this team when they actually truly want to be out there, because I'll be honest with you, I don't think anybody wanted to play today. I mean, much less play yesterday. So against Hofstra, they got obviously just the routine. I mean, this is what this opening series is about. What this non-conference schedule is mostly about, other than a few select games which we're going to be playing here soon. But it's all about getting back in the rhythm. I mean, baseball is such a rhythm sport. You kind of got to get into that midweek, weekend type schedule. And that's kind of what this was. You wanted to find out who your 3 starters were, and we found out who that was. And Michael, do you have any complaints or pointers on who he appointed as our 3-day starters?
I won't say I have any complaints or anything. I do have a question as to where Dylan Loy is going to come into all this, because last year, the way that he pitched, and I know the College World Series wasn't the best time for him. He got roughed up a little bit, but Dylan Loy was a guy I was like, I think that might be our Sunday guy next year, or at least a midweek, main guy that we're looking at. But hadn't seen him. But I mean, some takeaways that I have, man, Liam Doyle, he's that dude. He's going to be fantastic for Tennessee this year as that Thursday, Friday night starter, at least until AJ Russell comes back. But at this point, I think when Russell comes back midway through conference play, that's probably going to be your Sunday guy.
Yeah.
I think that you've got a great 1-2 rotation right now of Liam Doyle and Marcus Phillips. And what about the improvements from last year to this year that Phillips has made? He is still leaving some over the plate a little bit too much for my liking. Team like Hofstra, they were coming around on the ball, but a credit to Tennessee's defense. I think he's going to be that guy kind of like Drew Beam that pitches to contact.
Yeah.
A little bit. But he's going to give up some home runs here and there. But I think overall he's going to be pitching to contact, getting a lot more outs than he does giving up hits. But Nate Snead, that's a quality arm there as the Sunday starter.
I felt like he was a little loose. Maybe it's because it was cold, nobody wanted to play. But I think he was a little bit out of command. Gave up a couple walks in 3 innings. Obviously gave up an earned run. I do want him to be a little bit more locked in, but he still got three Ks in 3 innings. So who knows? Maybe that's just a first game jitters, and it is his first game, kind of like as that guy as a Sunday starter per se. So we'll see how that goes. Matt kind of talked about Jay Abernathy. He was a freshman infielder. I think for Jay Abernathy, he might end up redshirting. Honestly, I don't know for a fact. I don't have any inside information, but I just feel like this team's a little bit stacked, and it might actually pay him really good dividends. And I know Jay Abernathy's not wanting to do that. I think he's really good, but it might be to his benefit to kind of sit back and wait his turn in the show.
There's one more guy as well that I think, and it's a very big name that's probably going to be in the same boat, and I think that's going to be Errol Antigua. His defense is stellar,
and that was last year too. It just
but there's some bats that are a little bit better than him.
You got a preseason All-American in Dean Curley.
He picked up a huge transfer in Gavin Keelan at second base. There's really just not a spot for him right now.
Great problem to have for the coaching staff, but I can understand. I can understand as a player. I could see that maybe causing some concern as far as, how are you going to be able to lock these kids in to get them to buy in to stay here, to know that they'll be that guy next year or whatnot. When there's always that concern or question of where are you going to bring somebody in next year to kind of jump me as well. So I don't think that's going to happen. I think Errol Antigua is that dude. I just think he needs a little bit more help at the plate before he gets the reins to the team. So
completely agree. A couple of takeaways that I have before we quickly move on to softball. Dean Curley is that dude. The hype around him, it's not fake.
No.
From his defense to the plate, all the way around. He's that dude. Some guys to watch out for. I mean, Hunter Inslee, obviously, he's going to be steady Eddie. He got the big grand slam yesterday, the first of his career. He's just going to be doing his thing at the plate, in the field, all of that. He's I don't know if he's necessarily the captain of this team, but in my mind, he is the center of this team. A couple other guys, that catcher position is going to be a fun battle between Stone Lawless, Cannon Peebles, and then Mr. Freshman yesterday helped me with his name, hit the big home run.
Hold up.
Clark.
Was it Clark? My fault.
Yes, Levi Clark. He's also he's a true freshman, I believe.
He's not a catcher, is he? Yeah, he is. 100%.
Yeah, he's a catcher on his team. So that position is going to be a fun battle. I think whoever is not catching, one of those guys is going to be DHing between Lawless, Peebles, and Levi Clark. It's going to be a fantastic battle. And then Hunter High, you're going to have find a place for him, whether it be in the field or definitely batting. He's going to be a problem for this team. I mean, that home run that he hit in game 1 was very Drew Gilbert-esque, as far as soon as it left his bat, you knew it was gone. It was see you later ball.
It was. I knew Dean Curley was that guy when I seen the roster and he was wearing the number 1. If you got the cojones to wear that jersey after what Simo did last year, you better live up to that. And so I love the fact that he kind of took it upon himself to do that. And I think you've seen the accolades, obviously preseason All-American, and he played like it in the opening series. So I am excited about that. I'm excited about a lot of these guys. Hunter Inslee, I think, is going to be a phenomenal piece. If y'all haven't done so already, there is a documentary by the Tennessee Athletics posted literally on opening day. They released the documentary called Hunter.
And I finally got to watch it today. I highly recommend it.
46-minute long documentary, and it might have you in tears or it might have you fired up, ready to run through a brick wall for that kid. But it just gives you a little bit more of an inside scoop on the life of Hunter and the struggles that he's kind of went through. Because, I mean, obviously Hunter was around in the 22 team and stuff like that, and like you just never even knew about him. And it kind of helps give you the picture of why that was. And, it was hard on him. So the fact that he's still here playing ball for the University of Tennessee and the fact that he's still here this year, I think that documentary kind of helps you understand the reason behind that. I think it's a really cool thing, really cool deal. And he hit a grand slam in game 2, I believe, of the series. It was really cool to see and seeing him kind of be one of the leaders on this team. I think that's awesome. So overall, great opening weekend of baseball. This team's locked in. I think we've got some things to figure out. I think Tony's got some roster management to do, but I wouldn't trust anybody else in the world more than that guy to get that done.
Completely agree. Now moving over to the softball team for a couple minutes here. Some takeaways from this team. I think the offense is going to be a whole lot better than it was last year. Defense is still going to be solid, but offense, I think you've got more all around good hitters, where last year you had a couple of big bats and then some people that you were like, well, are they going to show up tonight or not? Laura Miller is still a very good, very, very good player at the shortstop position. I think her bat is more confident this year. She's getting on base a lot so far to start the year. Taylor Panel is already lighting it up from the plate. I love seeing Bella Fall back. Her season was cut short last year due to injury, but she's really coming around. And then Boo Gibson back for her senior year, just up there doing her thing at the plate as well. And then the pitching staff, I mean, what more can you say? You've got Sage Marjetko, the transfer from South Carolina, that got roughed up a little bit in that Nebraska game to start the season, but since then has settled down, had a really good season starting off. Carlin Pickens, the reigning national pitcher of the year, reigning SEC pitcher of the year. She's back just doing her thing out there.
Haven't even talked about the one that got the no-no already?
Exactly. No-hitter in her very first appearance. Who is that?
Newer.
Aaron Newer. All right, where am I missing her at? There we go. Aaron Newer. I see her now.
The freshman, by the way, pitcher from East Aurora, New York. And she came in very first game of her career and pitches a no-no. I mean, that's insane. What a story. What a start. I mean, is that kind of like make you feel a little bit better about, Carlin Pickens for sure probably heard last year. Maybe not. Maybe she comes back for her senior year. But, as far as like who are we going to pass the reins to?
I think that she absolutely will be back next year because, softball is.
Yeah, there's no
women's basketball. It's not
yeah.
a pro type level like the men's side is.
Yep.
So the fact that you've got Carlin Pickens in her junior year with people like Aaron Newer and Sage Marjetko, who, by the way, is just a sophomore, you've got some young, really talented arms. I think that Tennessee is, building for this. We're in the era of super conferences now.
Yeah.
They're building a team to be reckoned with for powers coming into the conference like Oklahoma and Texas.
Well, we've been saying it like this. Karen Weekly is not building a team just to compete to get to Oklahoma City.
Yep.
They are a team that expects to win in Oklahoma City.
Absolutely.
And I think this team and this roster, I think she feels probably most confident in so far. This is not a team that I think we expect to get to the supers and fail. Now, obviously, you can't help the draw when you draw another SEC team right after playing the SEC tournament. That was kind of a blow. I will be honest. You always, once you get to the postseason, you don't want to necessarily play the same people you've been playing all year long. You want to play some new blood,
especially a team as good as Alabama.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, you can't control that. You got to control what you can control, and that's going out there and win. And this team right here, I think, is built for that. I think we're going to be seeing that. You mentioned it. Our offense last year, as much as I love the ladies, but man, so many times we talked about, and I do believe a lot of this had a little bit to do with Malloy. Kind of taking a little bit of a step back.
She took a step back, but
a little bit of a step back, and it just took a lot to get the offense rolling. How many games do we lose by like one? Or freaking Carlin Pickens would throw a one-run game and we would lose 0-1 or something like. It was so frustrating. But I think this team right here is built to score some runs.
A little bit of a joking matter here. Did Rick Barnes take over the offense for the softball team last year? So
man, it was frustrating to watch. I mean, after so many games, we were like, man, the defense and the pitching did so well to win this game, and yet the offense just couldn't come around and get that base hit done, or couldn't get a runner over or something like that. But this year, obviously, we took it to the chin in the very first game, but since then. And by the way, Nebraska is not a bad team. I think that's who we lost to.
Oh, they're a very good team.
They're a very good team. And it was opening night. But since then, I mean, the Lady Vols have absolutely taken care of business. I think they're up to like 7 wins now already. I don't know. What do you have the schedule? I can pull it up here.
7, 8, 9, 10. They're 10-1 right now.
10-1. So they're on a 10-game winning streak. I told you. And just like that, you're looking like, wow, there's already been 11 games this year. Yes. And by the way, you can watch all these games on ESPN Plus. They are televised. Not necessarily the best production. So just keep that in mind, but they are televised on ESPN Plus. There are select games that will be televised on the air, on like SEC Network or ESPN at some point down the season, but it's going to be when basketball kind of wraps up.
You might be able to find some of these on the MLB Network. I'm not 100% sure, but the Lady Vols have a huge weekend ahead of them as they go out for the Mary Nutter Collegiate Classic. And on the schedule, they have 2 games on Thursday against Oregon and Oregon State. On Friday, it is a game against Rutgers and then UCLA. I believe UCLA is in the top 10 in the country. And then on Saturday, 1 game against Minnesota. So the Lady Vols will be tested this weekend in the Mary Nutter Collegiate Classic.
And softball's a little bit different. You're going to see a lot more doubleheaders for the softball team. Like, I mean, think about it. Friday, you got a Thursday, February 20th, you got a doubleheader with Oregon State. And then Friday, you have another doubleheader in Rutgers and UCLA. And then Saturday, I think you just have the 1 game against Minnesota, but you're going to see that a lot, which is how these games accumulate really fast. So don't feel like you've necessarily missed a lot. I mean, softball season's only been going on, I think, 2 weeks now. But, that's just like that. They're playing so many games. I mean, they got 5 games coming up this weekend. So overall, the team's doing good stuff. I mean, they're scoring a lot of runs, really. And the defense, I'm looking at some of these scores. The last 3 games, the last 3 games have been shutouts for the defense. And 4 of the last 5 have been shutouts. Other than that, they've given up ever since the first game loss where they gave up 7 runs. Michael, guess how many runs they have given up in 10 games now?
I'm gonna guess a total of 8.
9.
9 runs.
9 total runs in the last 10 games. So, averaging basically 1 run a game since then. The Lady Vols defense and the pitching staff got it rolling, and they look to continue that this weekend.
Yeah, and I've got a bold take right now about this softball team. Within the next 3 years, this team will make a women's college World Series finals. I'm not going to guarantee a win, but in the next 3 years, they will make the finals of the women's college.
It would be
World
nice to
Series.
guarantee a win, but we never want to do that. But yeah, I think I agree with you. It could be as soon as this year.
I agree. I think that this year they will at least make the college world. The
If it ain't this year, it's next.
It better be next year. Yeah,
it better be Carlin Pickens' tenure because she's one of the best pitchers in the game.
But this is kind of lining up the way that baseball did. Remember the 2022 team for baseball? They had arguably one of the best teams in the nation and got put out in the super regionals. Same thing with softball last year. They were arguably one of the best teams in the nation and got put out in the supers. I think they make the World Series this year. Are we talking about a win next year?
Who knows? We'll see. But y'all be locked in here. We will be talking more baseball and softball as basketball season wraps up. But we're coming up on March. We got brackets to fill out soon. It's going to be fun. Y'all be sure to be tuned in here every week at Sunday, 6 p.m. Eastern. Michael, you got anything you want to wrap up the show with?
No, just continue to keep watching Tennessee sports. Be on the lookout for baseball and softball. You do have to have that ESPN Plus subscription to be able to watch a lot of those games. You know, as Skylar said, you can catch some of them on TV, but probably not until basketball season for most of them. Continue to watch the men's and women's basketball going on. Men's getting a much needed break this week until Saturday before this gauntlet of the SEC tournament and the NCAA tournament comes up. So hopefully they're going to get their rest, get some of these bumps and bruises that guys have back up to where they are healthy. But other than that, let's keep on keeping on. Go Big Orange, guys.
Congratulations, bro.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, man.